Thanks to his leadership and direct engagements with China, we set up a framework to execute that mission 8 months ago. Attorney General Bondi immediately thereafter took steps to engage her counterpart in China at the Ministry of Public Security. Pursuant to their direct discussions, as the FBI director designated to run counterpoint on this, along with the Secretary of State Rubio and Ambassador Perdue and the team here at the White House, we set forward a path to implement the policy needed to crush the plague of fentanyl. Deputy Attorney General Blanche and our teams have been hard at work ever since, ultimately culminating in my trip to Beijing last week. This was only possible due to President Trump's historic engagement with President Xi just a few short weeks ago that set the stage for today's announcement.
A political bombshell has just exploded in Washington. FBI Director Cash Patel, one of President Trump's most loyal allies, has been caught lying under oath. And this isn't a minor slip. A federal judge has documented clear evidence of perjury that could send him to prison. The courtroom confrontation was explosive. Judge Boazberg systematically dismantled Patel's testimony, presenting FBI memos and internal communications that directly contradicted everything the FBI director told Congress. The judge didn't hesitate to use the word that changes everything: perjury. Cash Patel isn't just another appointee. He's been Trump's fiercest defender, handpicked for his unwavering loyalty. He's positioned himself as a warrior against the so-called deep state, taking on intelligence agencies with aggressive determination. But that same loyalty may now be his downfall. Because when you lie under oath about documents as explosive as the Jeffrey Epstein files, there's nowhere to hide. The Epstein files have been one of the most controversial issues in American politics for years. These documents potentially contain information about powerful individuals connected to the convicted sex offenders network. The public has demanded their release. Congress has issued subpoenas. Victims' families have pleaded for answers. Yet the FBI has consistently refused, with Patel personally leading the effort to keep them sealed. His justification has always been the same. Sealed court orders prevent him from releasing the files. He's testified before Congress multiple times, insisting his hands are tied by legal constraints. Many people believed him. After all,
as FBI director, he should know what those court orders actually say. But congressional investigators obtained the actual sealed orders and brought them to Judge Boazberg. When the judge reviewed them, he discovered something shocking. Patel had been lying the entire time. The sealed orders didn't say what Patel claimed. In fact, they contained specific exceptions allowing congressional access. With appropriate redactions, Patel could have released the documents at any time without violating any court order. Instead, he fabricated a false narrative to keep politically explosive information buried. Judge Boazberg confronted Patel with FBI memos showing he knew exactly what the orders required. He presented internal communications proving Patel had been advised by his own legal team about the exception. He quoted the actual language from the sealed orders, which clearly contradicted Patel's sworn testimony. When Patel tried to defend himself, claiming his interpretation was reasonable, Judge Boazberg shut him down immediately. "No, sir," the judge stated. "The sealed orders do not say what you claim they say. This isn't about interpretation. This is about you misrepresenting facts under oath. This is perjury." That single word changed everything. Judge Boazberg issued a devastating order. First, he commanded Patel to immediately provide the Epstein files to Congress with necessary redactions. The judge made clear he would no longer tolerate fabricated legal excuses. But the order went further. The judge explicitly warned Patel about criminal consequences. He reminded him that perjury is a federal crime carrying significant prison time. If Patel continues to defy the order or persist in his lies, contempt charges would follow, an unprecedented scandal that would force his resignation and likely lead to criminal prosecution. Most significantly, Judge Boazberg essentially invited Congress to refer Patel to the Department of Justice for a perjury investigation. The judge made clear that substantial evidence exists
showing Patel's sworn statements were false and intentional. The documentary evidence against Patel is overwhelming. FBI memos prove he knew what the sealed orders required. Internal communications show he consciously chose to misrepresent their meaning. This wasn't confusion. It was calculated deception. Congressional sources indicate a criminal referral is imminent. The evidence is too compelling to ignore, and the crime too serious to overlook. But this raises the critical question: why did Patel lie? What could possibly be in those Epstein files that made him willing to commit perjury and risk everything just to keep them hidden? The speculation is intense. Some believe the files contain information directly implicating Trump or his inner circle in connections to Epstein. Others suggest they expose powerful figures with ties to the administration, donors, political allies, or business partners whose exposure would create massive problems. There is also the possibility the files contain embarrassing information about FBI operations related to Epstein, details about whether he was protected, whether investigations were compromised, or whether his death was truly suicide. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain: nobody risks federal prison to hide trivial information. Patel's willingness to commit perjury signals something explosive lurks in those files. Now that a judge has ordered their release, we may finally learn what Patel was desperate to conceal. Congressional investigators will examine every page. Journalists will report their findings. And if there's anything incriminating for Trump, it will dominate headlines for months. This scandal represents a disturbing pattern. Trump administration officials willing to lie and break the law to protect the president. We've seen it repeatedly. Allies bending the truth, hiding evidence, defying legitimate oversight. But something is changing. Federal judges are pushing back with real force, calling out lies, issuing stern warnings, and threatening criminal referrals with actual consequences. If Patel faces real consequences, prosecution, conviction, prison time, it could mark a turning point. Other Trump allies might think twice before lying if they realize it could actually land them behind bars. Patel now faces an impossible choice. He can continue defying the judge's order and face contempt charges, leading to certain jail time and career destruction. Or he can comply and release the files, potentially exposing devastating information. There's a third option: cooperate with investigators. Facing serious prison time has a way of clarifying priorities. If Patel reveals who ordered him to hide the documents and what other misconduct occurred, it could trigger explosive revelations reaching the highest levels of the administration. FBI directors have access to extraordinary amounts of classified information. If Patel decides cooperation is his best path to avoid prison, he could become the most dangerous witness imaginable for Trump's inner circle. The implications for the 2026 midterm elections are significant. Democrats now have concrete evidence to support arguments about corruption in Trump's administration. They can point to Patel's proven perjury as proof that Trump surrounds himself with officials willing to break federal law. This message will resonate with independent voters who care about integrity and the rule of law. When the FBI director can lie under oath about the Epstein files, it raises fundamental questions about what else the administration is hiding. The implications for the FBI as an institution are equally serious. This scandal reinforces the narrative that under Trump, the Bureau has been politicized and lost its independence. That perception is devastating because public trust is essential for effective law enforcement. Even after Patel is gone, the FBI will struggle with the legacy of this scandal. Career agents who dedicated their lives to impartial law enforcement now work under a cloud of suspicion, created by Patel's willingness to prioritize political loyalty over legal duties. Recent developments in late December 2025 indicate congressional leaders are preparing formal criminal referrals to the Justice Department. Multiple committees are coordinating to present a comprehensive case that prosecutors cannot ignore. Some question whether a Trump-controlled Justice Department would prosecute one of the president's closest allies. But Judge Boazberg's formal findings create unique pressure. If the DOJ refuses to investigate, despite clear evidence documented by a federal judge, they'll face accusations of corruption and cover-up. The evidence against Patel is exceptionally strong. Prosecutors would have the judge's findings, FBI memos, internal communications, sworn testimony, and the actual sealed court orders. This isn't a weak case. It's a perjury prosecution with rock-solid documentary proof that typically results in conviction. If Patel is convicted, he faces significant prison time under federal sentencing guidelines. His career would be over, his reputation destroyed, his freedom taken away, all because he chose loyalty to Trump over honesty. The release of the Epstein files will be another major moment. Whatever is contained in those documents will dominate news cycles. If powerful figures are implicated, it will trigger new investigations and revive questions about Epstein's operations and death. For Trump specifically, any appearance in those files creates immediate political problems. The desperation with which Patel tried to suppress them, committing perjury, strongly suggests they contain genuinely damaging information. As this scandal develops, we're witnessing something historically significant. A federal judge holding an FBI director accountable for perjury, despite massive political pressure. This demonstrates that judicial independence still exists, and that even powerful officials must face consequences when they break the law. Judge Boazberg deserves recognition for his courage. He could have avoided this confrontation, but chose to enforce the law impartially. That's exactly what we need from the judiciary. Judges willing to stand firm against political pressure. For Americans concerned about democracy and the rule of law, this case provides hope. It proves institutions can resist corruption when individuals have courage. The coming weeks will prove decisive. Congress will issue criminal referrals. The Justice Department will face pressure to prosecute. The Epstein files will be released. And Patel will have to choose. Defy the judge, comply, and risk exposure. Or cooperate and betray those who placed him in this position. Each option carries devastating consequences. There's no easy way out. His lies have backed him into a corner with no good exits. And that's exactly what should happen when someone in a position of public trust chooses deception over honesty. This scandal will define Cash Patel's legacy. Instead of being remembered as a loyal Trump ally, he'll be known as the FBI director who committed perjury to hide the Epstein files. His career will become synonymous with corruption and abuse of power. The broader lesson is clear. Loyalty to any president should never supersede loyalty to truth and the rule of law. Public officials take oaths to uphold the Constitution and serve the American people, not to protect political allies at any cost. This is a moment that tests whether our system can hold powerful people accountable, whether the rule of law applies equally to everyone, whether judicial independence can withstand pressure from the executive branch. So far, Judge Boazberg has shown that accountability is possible. Now we'll see if the rest of the system has the courage to follow through and demand full justice.